Hey everyone, it's Lisa Stens and I'm excited for video number 4 in the Distress Oxide Inks series. Today I'm going to show you how to use your embossing folders with the Distress Oxide Inks. I'm going to start with Close to My Heart's new Spring Blossoms embossing folder and the mustard seed ink. Then I'm going to decide, do I want my ink to show on the embossed portion or the debossed portion? So I decided I wanted it on the debossed portion. So the flat side, as you can tell here in the video, is the side that I want to cover with the ink pad. And I'm going to do my best to get an even coverage with the ink and then spritz it with some water to activate the ink. And then I'm going to add a piece of Distress watercolor cardstock right on top, fold it over and run it through my embossing machine. And then you can see that the ink just stays in the debossed portion and the embossed portion stays white. I went ahead and dabbed it with a paper towel to just absorb any extra moisture that's on there. And then you notice that there's a little bit of ink that got on the embossed portion, but that's okay because I'm going to cover that part up. And then you're going to want to go ahead and clean off your embossing folder and just spritz a little bit of water on it and wipe it down with a paper towel so it'll be ready the next time you go to use it. Now I'm going to go ahead and adhere it to a craft cardstock card base that I made. Then I went ahead and used the stitched scallop bracket thin cuts dies and cut the smaller piece from some white daisy cardstock and the larger one with a piece of vellum. And then I adhered it to the center of the card. And at this point I wasn't sure if I wanted to stamp a sentiment or die cut something with the Cricut machine, and so I ended up pulling out the Hugs and Hello wood sentiments and thought the wood matched nicely with the craft card base. So I played around with some of the different sentiments and this little hugs fit really nicely in the center of that bracket. So I went ahead and adhered that and my card was finished. Then I wanted to try inking the embossed side instead of the debossed side, and it did not turn out well at all. So I came up with a new solution, and this one worked out better. I went ahead and embossed a piece of charcoal cardstock with the floral lace embossing folder, just like I normally would without any ink. And then I took the Tattered Rose ink pad and went gently over the top of it so that it just added ink to the areas that were raised, the embossed side, and it actually looks a lot better than when I tried. I threw it away. I should have put it on the video to show you what it looked like, but this turned out a lot better. So I think this is a better solution if you want to have the ink on the embossed side. It might depend on the embossing folder too and how detailed the image is, but for this particular folder, this worked out better. And then I took the Olive Branches background thin cuts die and cut a piece of ballerina cardstock. And I decided that I really liked that middle portion and wanted to use that for the sentiment. So I die cut the whole thing and then I just took my microtip scissors and cut off all of the leaves and the branches. And then I took the piece that I embossed and I adhered that to a ballerina cardstock base with some 3D foam tape. Instead of stamping a sentiment on this card, I decided to die cut a sentiment from my Cricut machine. And I found this sweet I love you sentiment on the Artiste cartridge and shrunk it down to fit and die cut it out of a piece of charcoal cardstock and adhered it to that piece with some mono liquid glue. And then I adhered the entire piece to the card front with a little bit more foam tape, and that was it. That completed my card. I hope you learned some fun ways to use your embossing folders with the Distress Oxide inks, and I hope you'll join me next time for video number 5, where I'm going to show you some fun ways to use stencils with the Distress Oxide inks. Thanks for joining me. See you next time.